McGraw out today. John Carney filling in. Cordell Whitlock will be doing our show later on, but Martin Kilcoyne will be in for Martin. And Large Morning Show in the afternoon. Everything else is as planned. New book on the shelves that maybe you've seen already, maybe you haven't, but it's called Now You See Me, and it is an amazing tale. And tomorrow marks the 19th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombings and the unthinkable happening to Kathy Sanders and her family. And she chronicles in a book and losing two grandkids in that explosion and now telling her story. Kathy, first of all, sorry for your loss, and thank you for joining us on the broadcast.
Well, thank you, John. I'm glad to be here.
Why is this a story that comes forth 19 years later?
Well, the title of the book is Now You See Me, and I hadn't shared my story or the things I had done until just a couple of years ago when I had some friends. When I began to talk about the places I had gone and the things I had done, my friends encouraged me to write a book. You see, I began my journey by investigating the Oklahoma City bombing. I didn't think things quite added up. I thought there was more to it than just Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. My journey of investigation took me, it led me to a truth I hadn't expected to find. You see, if I had found all the answers to my questions and not learned the truth about forgiveness, all I would have would be answers to my questions and two dead little boys. But today I have a song in my heart and a smile on my face, and I'm at peace. My investigation led me to places like terrorist training compounds in Elohim City. I wanted to know why men could do something so evil. At Elohim City, there was an ATF informant that had warned her handler that people at this compound had planned a bombing, and they were targeting the Murrah building.
It is one
I
thing.
needed answers to those questions.
It's one thing to investigate this stuff as a member of law enforcement, but as a civilian, you don't have the access to information that they do. 19 years ago, you didn't have the internet.
I worked. I joined teams with Stephen Jones. He wanted to point the finger at other people when he was representing Timothy McVeigh. I had access to all sorts of private FBI documents, 302 witness statements. I went out and I talked to the 22 eyewitnesses that saw McVeigh downtown the morning of the bombing. Not one saw him alone. I had access to Timothy McVeigh's phone records. I realized that he called Elohim City the week before the bombing, only 2 minutes after calling the Ryder Truck Rental Company. You would be amazed the lengths I went to. I went to the Aryan Nation compound in Hayden Lake, Idaho. I drove up the driveway there, and there's a big sign that says, "For whites only." There's a Nazi swastika painted on the roof of the building. When I walked in the church, the members were wiping their feet on the Israeli flag. When I walked into the auditorium at the front of the church, by the podium was a life-size bust of Adolf Hitler.
What are your friends and family saying about what is obviously putting yourself in harm's way in the midst of this investigation?
Well, that's why it's called Now You See Me. I didn't talk a lot about it back then because I didn't understand what was happening in my own life. So I didn't expect anybody else to understand either. You know, at the trials, I went out to the hallway, and there's a little woman standing there that looks like the Aunt Bee persona off of Mayberry, off of Andy Griffith's show. I could see people were talking about her, but not to her. I realized that it was Terry Nichols' mother. I went over to her, and I introduced myself, and she said, "I know who you are," and she began to cry. I put my arms around her, and I said, "I am so sorry for what's happened to your family," because I knew no one wants their child to grow up to be a mass killer. That was the beginning of a turning point. I was doing the right thing by reaching out to this woman. At the end of the trial, Terry Nichols wrote me a letter, and he thanked me for befriending his family. Well, I didn't know if I wanted to write back to him or not. You know, I wasn't looking for a pen pal. But I did eventually write back to him. When when his federal trial was over, he was moved to Oklahoma, where he was held for 4 years in the county jail there, awaiting his state trial. While he was in Oklahoma, he began to call me. We talked by the phone several times a week. I went in to see him. The Oklahoma City bomber became my friend Joyce's son. I found myself forgiving him, but it was a process. Forgiveness is not an event. It's a process. It takes baby steps.
And Kathy, we only have a couple of minutes left, but what is your friendship with Terry Nichols now, and do you guys still communicate?
We do. I got a letter from him last week. I just learned that harboring hate and bitterness and unforgiveness was like drinking poison and expecting the enemy to die. The changes that took place in my life were just so phenomenal, and my peace of mind was so great. Forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and that's why I've written the book. Although my investigative work is in there, the story I want people to come away with is that it's better to forgive. And we all deal with forgiveness issues every day. We all know sisters that haven't spoken in years, or spouses that can't possibly say anything nice about their ex, even though they know they're damaging their children. We all need to incorporate forgiveness in our everyday life.
We all know Timothy McVeigh was put to death for his crimes, but was there any communication with him at all prior to that with you?
No, I tried on several levels to get in touch with Timothy McVeigh, and he wouldn't respond to my letters. I even went to New York and met with his father in an effort to get him to get Timothy to have an audience with me. I had Timothy McVeigh's sister, who most people don't realize was granted immunity from her part in the bombing. She was on her back porch burning the letters that Timothy had sent her when the FBI came knocking on her door asking her questions, and she literally ratted out her brother and got her sentence and didn't have to stand trial.
Any other of your family members follow suit and carry this level of forgiveness?
Well, my daughter, Chasen Colton's mother, has. Now, my son, he saw his mom and sister on TV the day of the bombing, and he knew something was terribly wrong. He came downtown and found us, and he said, "Mama, don't worry, I'm going to find the boys." And he did. He found my youngest grandson, who had been gutted by a glass shard. He found my oldest grandson toe-tagged in the back of a refrigerated truck being used for a makeshift morgue with a rock in the back of his head. He said, "Mama, I appreciate what you've done in your book." And he said, "But don't ask me to do that." He said, "If I was left alone in a room with Terry Nichols, one of us wouldn't be coming out." And you know what? I understand that. If other people don't forgive, that's okay. This is just my story. This is how I handled it and how it changed my life. I certainly don't expect everyone to think like I do.
Now you see me, how I forgave the unforgivable. Kathy Sanders, who joins us on the program. Thank you for sharing the story. And again, so sorry for your loss.